Hey, welcome into a second episode of the Fantasy Fresh podcast. I'm Josh, co-hosted. Dolbs and Pig joining me today. Uh, this will be the Week 2 preview show, talking about the Week 2 matchups, guys we're looking to start, and guys we are not so hot on and maybe looking to sit Saquon Barkley. Uh, starting out Thursday Night Football, Giants and the team. Saquon Barkley. Are you going to start Saquon Barkley?
It depends on my bench. Where you drafted him though. I definitely think he's someone you could plug in the flex. I know football teams defense is it's scary. Not someone I'm excited about starting against, but I think he's startable. He's going to get the work. He's going to be their bell cow, and hopefully they don't get down by a lot and they're slinging the ball too much, so Danny Dimes can throw interceptions. But I mean, if it's a close game, he's going to get the work.
Pig, what about you? Would you start Saquon Barkley?
I wouldn't want to start him. Scary defense, even if he was back at full health. And yeah, I mean, if you're the guy that drafted him, you might have to, but I don't love it.
Well, I will say I do have Saquon Barkley in one of my leagues, and he will be riding the bench this week. Looking at quarterbacks in this one, though, Daniel Jones, Heineke, to be honest, just not guys I'm looking to play this week unless I'm in a 2 QB league.
Nope, I don't even think I would start him then. I think there's better players available. I would keep them on the bench this week. Only people I'd be looking to start here are I guess Gibson. You would start, obviously. He's their bell
Yeah,
cow.
I agree.
As far as receivers go, I think Shepard is definitely worth a look. A lot of targets, 7 catches last week. Daniel Jones' favorite target. Galladay, he's still getting worked in. I would keep him on the bench this week. And Slayton, McLaurin, you're starting. Diami Brown, though, are you starting him this week? Or is he a sleeper you're keeping on your bench? What do you think?
Yeah,
Keep him on
definitely
the
a
bench.
guy that I'm kind of stashing on the bench, but not a guy I'm looking to play this week. I think for me, it's Shepard, McLaurin, and Gibson, and those are the only guys I want in this matchup.
Agreed. What
Actually,
about
I'll throw in Logan Thomas.
Logan Thomas? Yep, I was about to say
Yeah.
tight end wise. But outside of that, Evan Ingram's questionable. Even if he does play, he is
I don't care
not
about Evan Ingram.
on my
Yeah.
roster. Yep.
All right. Moving on to a less boring game than Thursday Night Football. Bengals at the Chicago Bears. Quarterbacks in this one. Joe Burrow. Love Burrow in this one. Bears
Love him.
defense
Yeah,
did not look good last week. So definitely don't mind starting Burrow, especially in a 2 QB league. If you got Burrow as your second QB, love it.
agreed.
Dalton / Justin Fields question mark.
I like Dalton just because this Bengals defense is not good. It's not good at all. I think Andy Dalton is someone you could stream. Wouldn't be excited about it. I definitely think there's better options out there, but if you absolutely had to, you could look his way.
Yeah, it would have to be an extremely deep league or a 2 QB league for me to be streaming Dalton in week 2, especially with the chance that Fields gets on the field and vultures a touchdown. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Looking at the running backs in this one, though, Mixon, Montgomery, love them both. Definitely must starts for me this week, both of them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Damian Williams is someone to look at on the waiver wire. I mean, he was involved in the passing game, and he looked good on the field. I mean, Montgomery is obviously the number one guy there who gets the work, but I mean, if something were to happen to him, Damian Williams is someone you want to have on your bench.
Yeah, definitely a handcuff to look at if you have a deep bench. Looking at receivers in this one, personally, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Allen Robinson would be guys that I would like to look at starting this week, and
Yeah.
possibly Darnell Mooney in deeper leagues.
Yep, I would go Jamar Chase, T. Higgins in your flex spot, and then Robinson. He's wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 upside there. So not upset about that. Mooney, I'm not starting this week. I think he will potentially, get more work, but I'm not thrilled about starting him.
Nope, he's a guy that I'm just really intrigued to see what happens when Justin Fields takes over for Dalton. Would really want to see what the Mooney Fields connection looks like because could be big. Tight ends in this one, CJ Uzama obviously caught a very important pass last week in overtime. Not really a guy I'm.
Yeah, no, you're not starting
Start.
Uzoma. Cole Kmet, I definitely think he's startable at the tight end position, especially with how shallow that is. 7 targets last week. Definitely a guy you can plug in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and move on to the undefeated Houston Texans taking on the 0-1 Cleveland Browns. Tyrod Taylor, possible streamer this week. Browns defense sure did not look too great against Kansas City. As far as their secondary goes, at least, I think the Browns front 7 is pretty solid, which is why I would actually not like any of these running backs for Houston.
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor, like you said, definitely streamer option. I disagree there. I think the Browns defense did look pretty solid at times. They were going against the best offense in the league in the Kansas City Chiefs. So I would personally would not play Tyrod Taylor this week. Baker, on the other hand, yeah, fire him up.
Yep, I think Baker's in store for a big day, even without Odell Beckham. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I think both of them are startable. Obviously, you drafted Nick Chubb as an RB1, so he's a must-start every week, basically. And Kareem Hunt, almost always going to be a great flex play.
Yeah, scares me a little bit. I see the Browns getting up ahead, and they won't be throwing the ball a lot. They'll be running it. But I think Kareem Hunt will get some work, just won't be as involved in the passing game.
Nah, but if he's getting some more volume on the ground, I think that's okay. I just don't think this Houston Texans defense is very good. And I don't think this team is very good in general. And I think we'll see that after they go up against some actual competition.
Yeah. As far as the Texans backfield goes, though, Mark Ingram obviously carried the load last week, but I'm not touching any of those guys.
Absolutely not. Receivers, Brandon Cook's going to be the only receiver for the Texans that I would even think about putting in my lineup this week. And for the Browns, I just think the Browns are going to be running a lot in this game. I think they're going to get up early and just be attacking the ball on the ground. But I do think Jarvis Landry is going to be a go for me.
Yep, love Jarvis Landry this week. With OBJ being out, I think Schwartz is someone you could look out. He got some work last week, but Landry's the only one I'm starting on the Browns side of the ball.
Yeah, as far as tight ends go, this week I think they're all going to be sits for me again. I like Njoku a little bit, but I just think there's going to be I just think the Browns are going to be up in this one, and I just don't think tight ends are going to get a whole lot of work.
Yep, I agree. If I had to play someone from a tight end from the Texans, it'd be Pharaoh Brown. He played ahead of Jordan Akins last week, which was kind of a shocker to a lot of people. But still, I don't think the volume will be there.
No, a guy that I would definitely keep an eye on, though. Rams, Colts. Probably going to sit Wentz in this one. Rams defense is solid. Stafford, I think you could play.
Yep, Stafford's a play. The Colts defense is very good, but Stafford's a gunslinger, and if this game is anywhere close, Stafford's a guy you're going to want to play. Even where you drafted Stafford, he's going to be your QB1.
Well, yeah, if you drafted Stafford, he's definitely your QB1. As long as you didn't draft a QB super early. Running backs in this one, Jonathan Taylor must start every week now. He's an RB1. Darrell Henderson, I don't love him in this matchup, but I'm guessing you probably drafted him, around the 6th or 7th round. So you're probably looking to start him as a flex play. I think that's fine as a flex, but hopefully you got maybe someone with some more upside this week.
Yeah, I don't love it, but the volume's there. And Nyheim Hines is someone in a deeper PPR league. Definitely plug in the flex.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. He seems to get a decent amount of volume in the air. As far as wide receivers in this one go, Pig, what are you thinking? Who can you start from these wide receivers, and who are you looking to sit?
I don't think you can start any of the Colts receivers at this point. On the Rams side, Kupp and Woods for sure. Van Jefferson, if you gotta. And yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you there. Obviously, Woods and Cup, higher picks, wide receiver twos, maybe like high end wide receiver threes. Probably playing them this week. Van Jefferson as a flex if you're in a pickle. As much as I want to start Michael Pittman this week, I just haven't seen enough out of the guy to convince me that he's worth a start.
I would start Pittman over Van Jefferson in the flex in a deeper league. I look for – I mean, Pittman's our number one guy. I know Pascal had the better game last week, but, I mean, I look for that offense to get just be better this week, get on track. Even against the Rams defense, they're going to be a weekend, and I look for them to be better.
Yeah, I think Jefferson and Pittman are going to be close for me. I want to start Pittman over Jefferson, but I'm not going to be able to start the guy until I see it on the field. Looking at tight ends in this one, Higbee, I think you can go ahead and start as a
Higbee's a starter. He's
low-end tight end, yeah. Yeah. Anybody else, though, it's a hard pass for me.
Yep, negative.
Moving on, Bills, Dolphins. Josh Allen last week did not look very good. Going up against the Dolphins, where last year I believe they hung up 50-plus points. Josh Allen should be back to top 3 QB status this week. Obviously must start. He was probably the second or third QB drafted in most leagues. Tua, still not a guy I'm really looking to start unless you're in a 2 QB league. A guy that you would think the rushing upside would be there on, and it's really just not.
Yep, not excited about it. I know even with Zack Moss out, Singletary didn't do anything there, pass first offense. So not touching any of those guys there.
Yeah, one thing to note for the Dolphins is Will Fuller will be back in week 2.
Mm-hmm.
So someone to look at, obviously suspended for week 1.
As far as the Dolphins backfield goes, I like Myles Gaskin the best.
Oh, yeah, Myles Gaskin is a clear-cut starter there, and I think you can go ahead and start him against the Bills, although the Bills' defense did look pretty good against Najee Harris last week. So I'm kind of in a pickle myself because I've got Gaskin in a few leagues, and I don't love the play, but I probably will end up starting him this week. Singletary, hopefully he will be the lead back in this backfield this year. Zack Moss, healthy scratch last week. Would love to see if it is kept that way. I don't expect Zack Moss to be a scratch every week, but if he could get very few touches, it would really clear up this backfield and at least make Singletary a flex play and great value where you drafted him probably towards the end of your draft.
I don't love it. I'm not interested in either of those guys.
No, I'm definitely not this week, but in future weeks could be. But this Dolphins defense is pretty solid. So he's a sit for me this week. Diggs, obviously you're starting him. But what about the rest of those receivers out in Buffalo? Cole Beasley, Sanders, and Gabriel Davis.
I mean, Cole Beasley got more targets than Sanders, but I think Sanders looked better. I would look for Sanders to be more involved. I'm not interested in really either of those guys, though.
I'd play him in PPR. Flex.
PPR, yeah. I like Beasley in PPR for sure. He was a PPR stud last year off waivers. Gabriel Davis is a guy that I've stashed in a few leagues. Did have a touchdown last week, but I still wouldn't be confident putting him in the lineup quite yet. For the Dolphins, though, Jalen Waddle, is he going to be a nice flex play for you this week?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this game is going to be a shootout, or at least the Dolphins are going to be down in this one. So I think there's going to be a lot of passing going on for Miami. Look at the tight ends in this one. Obviously, you're never starting a Buffalo tight end, but Mike Gesicki, goose egg last week.
Yep, I'm not touching him. I mean, I know he was drafted as a startable tight end, but I wouldn't touch him. I would look elsewhere. Yeah,
hopefully you picked up a tight end on waivers if you own Gesicki. Definitely a little bit worried if I'm a Gesicki owner after that performance last week. Moving on, Patriots taking on the Jets. A little AFC East matchup in this one. Mac Jones, Zach Wilson. Probably not two guys I'm looking to play this week. Just not really convinced that either one of them are going to be big fantasy producers.
In a 2-quarterback league, you can look at Mac Jones, but not excited about it.
No, I wouldn't be excited about either one. Devonta Harris. He's a start for me this week. Yeah, Damian Harris. Sorry, Damian Harris. He's a start for me this week. Hopefully Belichick doesn't put him in the doghouse for that late fumble last week.
No, I mean he got 26 carries last week. He's a guy. You're starting him, especially where you drafted him. The value there was amazing, especially after the Sonny Michel trade. So I would be happy to start him in my lineup.
Yeah. Jets running backs. You touching any of them?
No, definitely not. If I had to start one, it would be probably Ty Johnson, but no, thank you.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I just couldn't get behind a single one. Pig, what about you? Would you touch any of these Jets running backs?
Nope.
Looking at the receivers in this one for the Patriots, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, the only two guys that are really worth a look. Where are you at on these two guys if you had to rank them 1, 2?
Jacoby Myers, number one. He's going to get the most work, in my opinion. I like Aguilar, number 2. Outside of that, no thank you.
Yep, I think Jacoby Myers is going to get more targets, probably a higher floor on him. Aguilar could see some more deep balls. For the Jets, I really don't know what to think about the Jets aside from Corey Davis. I think he's going to be a target machine this year, and I think he'll be a flex play every week.
Yep, I agree. Clearly, Zach Wilson's favorite target there.
Yeah, as far as Mims and Elijah Moore go, I'm just going to have to see a little more before I even think about putting them into a lineup.
Yep.
And obviously, we're still waiting on Jamison Crowder. He's still hurt. I don't think he's going to play this week. But when he gets back into the lineup, I think this could mix things up even more and just make it more confusing as far as fantasy goes on what to do with some of those guys. Tight ends in this one. Don't love anybody, but if I had to start somebody, it was going to be Jonnu Smith.
Agreed.
Let's go ahead and move on. 49ers taking on the Eagles in what should be a good game. Jimmy G, Trey Lance, and Jalen Hurts.
You're starting Justin Hurt, obviously. Other two guys, no. Trey Lance is definitely someone, if he's on your waivers, put him on your bench. He has tremendous upside.
Yeah, I think he could be good if he gets the starting job to himself. I just am not sure that's going to happen this year. Jimmy G looked solid last week. It's not going to be a scenario, I think, where Kyle Shanahan decides to bench Garoppolo if they're winning games. So
yeah, and Jimmy G, he has a history of getting injured. One thing I'll add is the Eagles defense looked really good last week. I know they were playing the Falcons, but the Falcons couldn't do anything at all. The Eagles defense was great.
No, and I think that Falcons defense is a lot worse than anybody thought. So I think temper expectations a little bit on Jalen Hurts, but I just think he's got too much upside. I think you could definitely start him if you're in a deeper league. So,
yep.
Looking at the running backs in this one, I guess we'll see what happens with the running back room for the 49ers. Obviously, Elijah Mitchell, number 1 waiver pickup this week. But who knows what Kyle Shanahan does. For all we know, Trey Sermon could get the start on Sunday and fuck all of us over that picked up Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, though. Sermon was a healthy scratch. I could see Mitchell coming in and taking the work. But, it seems like with Shanahan, he goes with the hot hand. So on a week-to-week basis, you just never know.
Yeah, the only thing I worry about with Mitchell, I'm a little bit worried as a season-long play. JaMychal Hasty's still there. And then Jeff Wilson Jr. Will be back at some point this year. And he's a guy that I could easily see taking over that starting job just because he's he played a lot last year when Mostert went down. So
Yep.
What happens there? As far as the Eagles go, Miles Sanders, I think, is definitely going to be a start. Finally getting that volume that we like to see.
Yep.
Kenneth Gainwell looked solid last week. Does scare me a little bit that he might be taking away some touches from Miles Sanders as we go here into the season, but not a guy I'm looking at right now. But definitely a guy I'd like to stash on my bench.
Yep, I agree. And no Boston Scott. Scott didn't touch the ball, so I mean, if Gainwell's on your waivers, I would go pick him up.
Yeah. So receivers in this one, I mean, you got to fire up Debo Samuel again. Hopefully you started him last week and he did not score over 30 points on your bench. Brandon Ayuk, what are you doing with him?
He's on my bench.
I mean, you can't drop him at this point. I've heard of some guys dropping him, and that's silly, especially where you drafted him. He's too talented, and with what you give up, I mean, you can't drop him. I mean, you could look to trade him, but you won't get what he's worth. So, I mean, he's going to be sitting the bench this week.
Yeah, if you see Brandon Ayuk on the waiver wire, you're definitely going to want to put in a claim there. Looking at the Eagles receivers, Devonta Smith, love it, fire him up. It looks like him and Hurts have a good connection going. And I think Jalen Reagor as a flex play is fine as well.
Yep.
I believe, was it Jason Verrett? Looked like he got hurt for the 49ers last week. So I can't remember if it was Verrett or someone else, but the 49ers lost one of their starting corners. So secondary could be a little weak, so I don't mind starting 2 wide receivers for the Eagles in this one. Tight ends in this one, Kittle and Goddard, I think you can start, although I do worry about Goddard a little bit. But obviously Kittle, top 5 tight end, you're going to fire him up every week.
Yep, definitely.
Moving on. I'll let you talk about this one since big fan of the steel curtain over here.
Oh, yeah, love the Steelers. Derek Carr, he had a decent game last week. I don't think he's going to have
435 yards, I think, is a little better than
and I mean,
decent.
Ravens defense is good, but I think Pittsburgh's pass rush is just gonna get after him. I mean, he might get some solid completions, maybe some lucky touchdowns, but I wouldn't start him. I think Big Ben's a play here. Raiders defense did look okay, but I think Pittsburgh's really gonna have a good game this week.
Yeah, look at the running backs in this one. Josh Jacobs, questionable. Obviously, we watched him on Monday night, struggling with a toe injury, it sounds like. So I'm a little bit worried about that. He did not have a very good yards per carry, but he did find the end zone twice, which is kind of lucky. To be honest, Josh Jacobs is a guy I'm looking to sell high on if I could get a running back 2 in exchange for him.
Yeah, and I mean, Kenyon Drake, he got some work. So, I mean, Drake is someone you could definitely look at, especially with Jacobs being banged up the way he is. He was hurting.
Yeah. As far as the Steelers go, obviously you're starting Najee Harris. Should have running back 1 upside this week.
Agreed.
Receivers in this one. Yeah. Receivers in this one. Hunter Renfro, I think I'm a pass on. I think I'm going to sit on Renfro this week. I really am not sure who I want to touch in this Raiders offense besides Waller. I think one of these guys definitely hits. I just don't know who it's going to be. If I had to pick one, it would be Renfro, but I don't love any of them.
Yep. I mean, you got to start Waller just based off the sheer volume. But, yeah, I agree. You're not touching any of these other guys. On the Steelers side of the ball, I think Deontay Johnson, he's definitely – wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside based off the volume. And then Claypool and Juju, I think, are both flex plays.
Yeah, and I'll ask both of you, but in my opinion, I think all 3 of these receivers are just must-starts every week. And there's going to be some weeks where one of them doesn't hit, but I just think you can't afford to have any of these 3 guys out of your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. And, I mean, Big Ben, he's, all offseason you heard he's washed. He can't throw the ball downfield like he did. But, I mean, he looked fairly decent, especially in that second half. I mean, he drove him down the field when he needed to.
Yeah, Pig, what do you think about these Pittsburgh receivers?
I think they're pretty boom bust. But, yeah, you got to play them.
Yeah. I just think the ceiling's too high on them.
Yeah, especially Deontay, just based off the targets. I mean, he's a definitely double-digit target guy week in and week out. He's someone if you drafted him, he's going to be in your starting lineup.
We talked about Darren Waller, obviously must start. Tight ends for the Steelers, they're sits for me. I don't
Yep,
know what to think
you're
about
sitting
it.
him. Freiermuth, I think he's going to break out, whether it's this year or next year. But I love Pat Freiermuth.
Yeah, I think he's a huge play for dynasty leagues this year.
Yep.
Saints Panthers. We'll see what happens with Jameis Winston this week. Obviously, last week, historical efficiency. Sam Darnold. I think. I don't know. I think you could probably stream Winston if, for whatever reason, you need to stream a quarterback in week 2, but probably going to hold off and not looking to start either one of those guys. As far as the running backs go, these are my RB1 and RB2 on the season. So obviously you're starting them, CMC and Kamara respectively. I mean, those guys are not ever leaving your lineup.
Yep.
Receivers in this one.
DJ Moore must start. He got, he was Darnold's favorite target last week. Marshall had a more productive day than Robbie Anderson, but I mean, if you're a Robbie Anderson owner, I mean, he's definitely a flex play in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Anderson's a flex play. I'm definitely starting DJ Moore. Terrace Marshall Jr., just not quite yet. Maybe a few weeks from now, we'll see what he's doing.
Definitely hold on to Terrace Marshall.
Definitely
where
a
you
stash.
drafted him. Gotta love the targets that he received.
As far as the Saints receivers, though, I'm just gonna have to sit everybody. I don't know who to trust yet, and I don't feel comfortable having any of them in my lineup.
Yeah, no. If you're gonna hold on to any one of them, it's Marquez Callaway. But yeah, he's sitting the bench. Adam Troutman though, as a tight end, he was the lead receiver. He had 6 targets, so you got to like that.
Looking at tight ends, Troutman, probably the only guy I'm looking at in that one. I don't even want to really talk about it much. I just don't think there's really a whole lot there as of right now. Moving on, Broncos versus what looks to be the worst team in the NFL. Once again, Jacksonville Jaguars. Teddy Bridgewater, Trevor Lawrence, probably not looking to play either one of them. As far as running backs go, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, I'm okay with both of them being in lineups. Javonte Williams probably more of a flex play. But I think the Broncos get up big in this one, and both these running backs get a ton of volume.
Yep, I definitely could see both of them being productive. I agree. Melvin Gordon is someone you can plug into the RB2 spot if you had to. And I think Javonte Williams could definitely be a flex play.
For the Jaguars, I don't think I could touch any of these running backs right now.
Nope. Robinson is someone, you got to be a little disappointed in, especially drafting him in the 4th round. Only 5 carries.
Yeah, that's really, really not what I want to see. And playing against a very, very stout Denver defense, that's just not somebody I'm looking to play. He could have an okay week, and he could easily have a point or two like he did last week. So I would be sitting him. Looking at the receivers in this one, Sutton, I'm definitely playing. And Hamler and Patrick in deeper leagues could be a flex play. Hamler going to be more of a boomer bust guy. Patrick, a little safer floor. I just don't know how much the Broncos are going to be throwing the ball in this one, but I'm sure they do rack up probably close to 200 passing yards, so they got to go somewhere. I think one of those guys ends up hitting this week. I just don't know who it's going to be. If I had to pick one, though, I'd say Hamler's the play this week just because of how poor that Jaguars defense is. I could see him getting into the end zone on a deep ball.
Are you talking Hamler over Patrick or Hamler over Sutton and Patrick?
Hamler over Patrick this week.
Okay.
Sutton, though, I think is fine to start him. I think he should be getting back. Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Season long, though, or at least until Judy gets back, I think I like Patrick over Hamler on a week-to-week basis.
I agree.
For the Jaguars, I think you can probably fire up all 3 of these guys. I have to imagine that Trevor Lawrence probably throws the ball close to 50 times in this game, so those targets got to go somewhere. Laviska Shenault, probably the one guy I would maybe be hesitant to start unless I'm in a 14-team league. But DJ Chark, Marvin Jones, guys that I don't mind firing up in this one.
I agree there. I love Marvin Jones a lot. I think the value was great on him. Looking at tight end though, you got to start Noah Fant. I think he had 8 targets last week. Was very productive. As far as the Jacksonville tight ends go, no, thank you.
Yeah, if only Tim Tebow was still there, he'd be the only guy I'd be looking at. But no, I think Noah Fant's going to be a top 8 tight end this year, and obviously you drafted him as such, and he'll be in your lineup every week.
Mm-hmm.
Albert O, though, did steal a touchdown last week. Moving on, Minnesota Vikings taking on the red-hot Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, you're starting Kyler Murray, and I'm probably sitting Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I mean, Cardinals defense looks solid, but I think Kirk Cousins is a stream. I mean, they're probably going to be behind. He'll be slinging the ball, and he's got a lot of weapons. So he's definitely someone. I mean, he could dump off something to Dalvin Cook, and he could take it 70 yards to the house on any given play. So
that is true. I just worry about that Cardinals defense. Obviously, they gave the Titans last week a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Peg, what are you thinking? Would you start Kirk Cousins this week, or would you rather find someone else?
I'd stream him.
Okay. Dalvin Cook, going to be a must start. Probably my RB3 on the year. A little underwhelming last week, but I'm sure he'll be back to his last year self or close to it at some point this year. As far as the Arizona running backs go, I think you can definitely start both of these guys, Edmonds and Connor, this week. I think the Cardinals get quite a bit going on the ground against the Vikings. Wide receivers in this one, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, must starts. As far as the Cardinals go, are you starting Rondale Moore this week?
Probably not. I think he's a flex play, but I would hold on to him.
What about Christian Kirk?
Probably not. I think there's better options out there, but he's definitely a good waiver wire ad. Definitely someone to stash on the bench.
Pig, what do you think? Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore piquing your interest at all this week?
No, I'm going to play hop, and then, I mean, one of those guys will probably get some work, but who's it going to be?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Hard to pick one. For me, I'd throw Rondale Moore out there in the flex this week, see what happens. KJ Osborne for the Vikings. I'm going to have to say hard pass on that one. I think a fluke week out there last week.
Yeah, I will say going back to Kirk and Moore, I think Rondale Moore is more of a flex guy, so a good PPR guy. He'll probably get more targets. Kirk, they kind of play on the outside.
More of a deep threat guy.
Yep.
Tight ends in this one, hopefully not. Did you have anything to say about tight ends in this one?
No, thank you.
Yep. Falcons, Bucks, and what should be a blowout from start to finish. Matty Ice, hard pass against this Bucks defense. And Tampa Bay, I mean, obviously you're starting Tom Brady. I think him and Dak Prescott this year were the best values at quarterback.
Yeah, Tom Brady's going to light up this defense. I wouldn't be surprised if he's sitting by the third quarter.
Yeah, if I had rankings on the week, I'd probably have Tom Brady as a top 3 QB this week.
Yeah. I mean, and moving ahead, I mean, I'm just looking ahead at wide receivers here. I mean, Evans, Godwin, AB. I mean, I think you're starting all 3 of them.
Yeah, I think you have to. If you have Godwin and AB, I think are just going to be starts from every week. And Mike Evans, really more of like a wide receiver 3 at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to
Boomer
base it
bust.
all off week 1, but definitely boomer bust. But where you drafted him, I mean, he was going in the 3rd round, 4th round in a lot of leagues. So it's tough.
Yeah. Running backs wise, Mike Davis, Cordero Patterson, they're going to be sits for me this week. I just don't think Atlanta's going to be running the ball very much at all. And if they are, this Bucs defense is not a team I would like to be running the ball on.
Yeah, no. I mean, you saw what Zeke did last week. They didn't even try
much.
because they Even on the Bucks side of the ball, Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, that neither of them looked good last week.
No,
I'm not interested.
I'm not super interested, but I don't mind Ronald Jones as a flex play this week. Obviously, he was named the starter. I'd like to hold off a week and see what he does as the bona fide starter. If he's going to get a higher percentage of the volume in that offense, that could mean something. And if I was going to start any of these running backs against any team, it would be the Falcons. So,
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true. And I mean, but you got to think you also have Giovanni Bernard, who's coming off of an injury. I mean, you just never know. I'm not going to take the risk. I think there's better guys out there.
yeah. What about the receivers in this one? Obviously, you're probably starting Calvin Ridley because you probably drafted him as potentially a wide receiver one,
Yep.
hopefully wide receiver two. So what about Russell Gage? For me, I wouldn't mind dropping the guy.
Yeah, no interest there. As far as receiving options in the Atlanta offense, I mean, Calvin Ridley and Pitts are must starts just based off of where you drafted them.
Yeah, as far as tight ends go, Gronk, sure. I don't think you can expect what you got from him last week, but I think you can still start him. And Kyle Pitts, I'm hoping for a much better week this week out of him.
I agree.
All right. All right, so moving on, Cowboys at the Cowboys at the Los Angeles Chargers. Dak Prescott, like we talked about before, I think he's going to be a top 5 QB this year, so I'm playing him every week. And Justin Herbert, I think you can definitely play him too.
Yep, start.
Moving on, what are you doing with Zeke?
Starting him.
Yeah, I think he'll have a lot better week than he had last week. I'm very interested to see what he does this week. I think it's kind of like a time for him to show us if he's going to be a viable fantasy starter this year against the Chargers defense that is not exceptional. So,
Yep.
Pig,
And
what do
I
you
mean,
think about Zeke this week?
Think he'll have a good week, but if he has a bad week, people are gonna lose their shit.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's a buy low guy. I mean, I wouldn't give up a lot for him, but I mean, you can test some fantasy owners that have him and are shitting their pants.
Especially if he has a bad game this week, I think definitely a buy low guy. Austin Eckler, definitely starting him. Wide receivers in this one, I think Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb must starts. As far as right now, I think you gotta be starting them every week.
What are you doing with Gallup?
Probably gonna be a sit for me in this one.
Isn't he out? I thought he was on IR. Am I wrong?
I actually don't know. Well, as far as the Chargers receivers go, obviously Keenan Allen, wide receiver one guy, playing him. What about Mike Williams? You like Mike Williams this week against the Cowboys?
No, I'm not starting him.
I am. He's gonna have a good game. It's gonna be a shootout.
Yeah, I actually like Mike Williams a lot this week against a poor Cowboys secondary. Michael Gallup is on IR, so we'll not be touching him, obviously. What about you? Like anybody else from this Chargers offense? Jalen Guyton, Josh Palmer?
No, thank you on Palmer. Guyton is someone I would be picking up off waivers, and with Mike Williams' injury history, yeah, Guyton could definitely gain some value in the future.
Yeah, I think Guyton could definitely end up being the number 2 guy on that team if Mike Williams were to go down.
And I mean, he looked good. He did look good out there against the football team last week.
Yeah, well, and Guyton had some big plays last year as well. So, tight ends in this one, Dalton Schultz. I think definitely now that Gallup is on IR, definitely starting Dalton Schultz. As far as Jared Cook goes, I'm still probably going to be a sit on him. I just don't think he's gotten involved enough in the offense yet.
I agree.
Pig, what do you think about tight ends this week in this game?
I think you can play Jared Cook. Tight end's a tough position, and like I said, it's gonna be a shootout. So
yeah, I could definitely see him. I could definitely see him sneak it into the end zone. Titans, Seahawks. We'll see what happens with Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry this week. You'd think they'd be able to get back on track against the Seahawks defense. That is definitely nothing special. Definitely starting Russ, but not sold on Tannehill.
I think if you have Tannehill, you can start him. Like you said, Seahawks defense isn't great. I could see this being a potentially high-scoring game based off the way both of these defenses looked last week.
Yeah, definitely starting Chris Carson and Derrick Henry. I don't think there's going to be any questions about that there. As far as wide receivers go, I feel like you got to play A.J. Brown on where you drafted him, probably your wide receiver one. What about Julio Jones?
He's coming off a bad week, but I'm going to play him against Seahawks.
Yep, I don't hate it. I think as time goes on, I think he gets more volume in this offense. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, obviously you're playing those guys. I just don't think you could ever sit Tyler Lockett because you never know when he's going to have a 30-point game. And obviously DK Metcalf is the wide receiver one on this team. So tight ends in this one. What are you guys' thoughts on tight ends?
You can start Gerald Everett. Outside of that, I'm not interested.
Pig?
Yep.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't love anybody in this game. Sunday Night Football should be a pretty good game, hopefully. Chiefs taking on the Ravens in Baltimore. I think you're good to go. Starting, obviously, Mahomes, but also Lamar.
Yeah, that's Lamar.
Yeah. Clyde, I think you basically have to start him at this point. But I
actually have him on my bench in one league. I have it's a one running back league with I have a lot of solid receivers. I'm going to go ahead and sit Clyde this week. I think the Ravens defense is really solid, and I think it's going to be a lot of passes this game. And I don't love Clyde splitting the work with Darrell Williams. So I just don't trust it.
Yeah, I don't actually hate that. I think Clyde's going to have a tough week, and unless he finds the end zone, I think people are going to be pretty disappointed with his output. As far as the Ravens go, you liking Tyson Williams or Latavius Murray in this one?
Tyson Williams, he just looked better. Murray did not impress me at all. He got more carries than Tyson Williams, but I just saw all around Tyson Williams look better. He obviously had that touchdown run, but even outside of that, he was a more productive back.
Yep. Wide receivers in this one, obviously Tyreek Hill, top tier receiver in fantasy, definitely playing him. What about these other Chiefs receivers? Mecole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson. Are you playing any of these guys?
Definitely not. Yeah, only people on that on receiving side of the ball. I'm gonna start Hill and Kelsey. Obviously, outside of that, it's hit or miss, boom or bust. You don't know. I will say, very surprised with Hollywood Brown. I didn't think he would pop off like that, but very inconsistent receiver. You don't know week in and week out when he's going to have a productive week like that.
Yeah, I agree. And he does have a tendency to start off the season hot, but definitely a guy that I think in this one, though, you can go ahead and fire up against a mediocre Chiefs secondary. What about Sammy Watkins? Led the team in receiving last week.
I'm not excited about it, but definitely think that you could look at him in the flex if you absolutely had to.
I think I actually like Watkins this week, revenge game against his former team. And I think you might as well play him before he gets hurt and misses half the season. Mark Andrews, obviously you're starting him if you got him. Didn't do a whole lot last week, but, probably a top 5 tight end. So Monday Night Football, the Detroit Lions taking on the Packers. Would not want to be a Detroit Lion fan on Monday night. Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers. Starting Rodgers, probably sitting Goff.
I agree.
Running backs in this one. Love Swift. Not sold on Williams.
Me personally, I don't love either of them. I think if you have Swift, you're probably starting him. But I don't know. Williams, he carried half the load last week and started. So, I think they're still working in Swift after his injury. But I don't love either of those guys.
I think you
Fair
could play
enough.
either of them. They're getting pass catching work more than any receiver on the team, so
I
I'd
do
flex
agree
either
with
of them.
there. I agree
I
with
do,
the pass.
yeah,
pass.
I do think the Lions could find themselves in a similar position to last week for them. So, as far as the Packers go, obviously you're playing Aaron Jones in this one. Hopefully he'll get back on track for you. Wide receivers for the Lions. We talked about this on our recap, and I just don't think they have any to play.
Nope. Swift and Williams led the team in receptions. So, I mean, and Hawkinson, I guess. But, I mean, yeah, no thank you.
Yeah, as far as the Packers go, obviously Adams, you're playing him. As far as the other ones go, we talked about this on the recap as well, but I think MVS is the flex play this week.
Yep, I agree. MVS, I mean, they're going to be throwing the ball. They're probably going to try to light up this team. So I could definitely see him catching a deep touchdown. Outside of that, I'm not touching anybody else. Not touching Lazard or Randall Cobb.
Yeah, I agree. Pig, you touching anybody else in this offense?
Nope.
As far as tight ends go,
yeah. I was going to say Hawkinson must start. Tonyan, very disappointing week last week. But, I mean, a lot of people only have him on their roster. So I definitely think with Aaron Rodgers throwing you the ball, he's someone you can plug in there.
yeah, if you don't have anyone else, or obviously you have to start them. But if you've got someone else to put in there, maybe do that. That is going to wrap it up for the preview. We're going to hop into a couple things here. Prize picks. We over here on the Fantasy Fresh podcast do like to get involved in some prize picks action. If you're not familiar, it is a betting on props on player props that you can parlay. Obviously, if you're familiar with sports books and player props, usually you cannot parlay them together. So kind of fun to do, easy app to use. Definitely check it out if you have not. Obviously, we are not sponsored by them, but maybe they should sponsor us here in the future. So,
no, we slated on Prize Picks last week. We had a great week, and I look forward to that continue. I love that app, so a lot of fun.
So let's first of all, let's talk about. We're just going to do Thursday night, and we'll have a betting episode on Friday where we talk about the rest of the league. But Washington football team favored by 3.5 points. Over under for this game 40.5. Personally, just not a game I would touch as far as the game lines go. Would you touch any of this stuff?
No, definitely not. I don't like any of that. I could see this going either way. Honestly, I could see it being somewhat high scoring, and I could also see it, being a defensive, back and forth.
Yep. But let's get into prize picks because that is where we actually do have some plays for you. I'll go ahead and start us off here. And I love the Saquon Barkley under 52.5 rushing yards. I just don't think he gets going week 2.
Yep. I like that. The plays I'm doing is Sterling Shepard. Great week last week. I look for him to continue. Daniel Jones' favorite target. His fantasy score is set at 12.5. Smashing over on that. Diami Brown for Washington. I think he's going to be their number 2 guy. Maybe behind Logan Thomas and Terry McLaurin. Sorry, I couldn't think of his name. McLaurin's obviously number 1, but I think Diami Brown is going to get some work. His fantasy score is set at 7.5. I think he's going to smash that. And then Taylor Heineke, his over-under is set at 16. I'm going to go ahead and take the over on that.
Yeah, and a couple of other plays I like from that game. Antonio Gibson over on receiving yards at 16.5. I think he'll be able to get that. And then Doles mentioned the Sterling Shepard fantasy score over. I also like the receiving yards over at 57.5. Big, you got anything on the gambling side of this game?
Daniel Jones has a 17-point over-under for fantasy score, and he didn't get that done last week against the Broncos, and he's not going to get it done against Washington. So take the under.
I like that as well.
I do like that.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Fantasy Fresh podcast. We hope to catch you on Friday when we have our full Sunday slate of betting, and hopefully next week as well when we have our week 2 recap. Appreciate you guys, and see you there.